We're here at the City Summit of the Americas in Denver, Colorado, my hometown. We have the pleasure of interviewing Mayor William Dow from Cartagena, Colombia. We're already talking about the importance of disaster-resilient, healthy housing, especially with having a toilet, having a kitchen that functions, having a building that withstands an earthquake and other disasters, safety, security, and all those sorts of things. So, Mayor Dow, can you provide an overview of the key climate disasters, other disasters, challenges that your community faces in terms of housing?
Yes. There's so many factors come into this. We have very little land available to build more housing.
Yeah.
And we have a huge deficit in both number of houses and the quality of house improvements.
Yeah.
Cartagena is considered one of the top 40 cities most prone to suffer from climate change because we're located right on the Caribbean. Like, for example, City Hall is like practically across the street from the ocean. So we're working on a lot of that. And also, because there's so much poverty, and we also have so many migrants have come in especially from Venezuela. We have approximately 80,000 Venezuelans living in the city of Cartagena. When they come here, there is no housing. So what they will do then is go and start cutting down mangroves and filling in lakes, lagoons, canals, and whatnot. So it causes a big environmental problem. And some of these houses also go up where there's a non-mitigable risk, like landslides or something. So there's, no matter what we do, we cannot help those people. We just have to find someplace else to move them. So it is pretty serious.
And it's quite a diversity of challenges that you're facing. So tell us a little bit more about the housing initiatives that you're prioritizing, what you were saying before about kitchens and toilets and that sort of thing. Tell us a bit more about those initiatives.
Okay, yes. Something we're really getting into is improving the quality of life for people in the poorest neighborhoods, for the most impoverished people. There are many thousands of houses, if you can call them houses, that don't have a bathroom and don't have a kitchen. And that definitely makes a huge difference in the quality of life for these people. So we're working on this program. We're doing it with city funds, but we're also bringing in international cooperation to build the kitchens and bathrooms in these houses that have been previously identified. The cost is approximately $2,500. And it used to be like I'll go in to the houses that have not had this done, and as I was telling you a moment ago, I'll ask them the dirt floors and whatnot, and I'll say, okay, show me your bathroom, show me your kitchen, and they'll show you a very, maybe 10 by 10 feet, and they'll say, okay, 2 big buckets of water, that's my bathroom, 2 big buckets of water here, that's my kitchen, and that's just not right. So we're working on this to solve it. We're bringing international cooperation also. So. And this is in the most impoverished neighborhoods. There are so many problems, but I think this is a big one for quality of life. And the other thing we're working on is also as far as new housing. We've completed, I think it's close to 2,000 apartments.
Wow.
That were started in the previous administration. We just followed through on that. But because Cartagena is we're not a construction company, all this housing came out extremely expensive, and also because of corruption, which is something that we were talking about, lots of the money is squandered. So we're now changing the approach, and we're starting to give, because the national government gives certain subsidies for low-income people to acquire houses. So we're putting up also from the city budget an additional subsidy, so that these people can go out and they can buy their own place instead of us building the homes for them. Kind of similar to what you were saying, that you get the money directly to the homeowners. Okay, this is also, we're going to finance the person who's going to buy the house.
What is the condition? How is that conditional?
You have to have income below a certain level and whatnot, but
you have to qualify for it.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and the builders also have to sell. The housing they sell has to be, vivienda de interés social, social interest housing, like low income housing.
So how have people reacted, especially women? How have women reacted to those interventions, both the upgrades of the existing housing as well as the availability of new?
Well, I think women are the ones who are most favorably impacted because, you know, these macho societies, the woman is also is the one who stays home, takes care of the kids, cooks, cleans without getting paid, and nobody appreciates what she does, and she goes through hell just with all of this. So the fact that she can have a stove, that she can have, you know, a sink to wash the dishes in, and the fact that she can go to the toilet, you know, all of this,
safely,
her and her kids, that's amazing. And it's the satisfaction for the woman. It saves her work. It dignifies her living, her house, and her entire family.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So tell me more about the anti-corruption work, particularly in either of these programs, in the upgrading of the existing housing and the new housing. How are your efforts, you know, reducing corruption?
Okay, I'll give you an example of how corruption came into one of these.
Yeah.
We started with our ladies. We've done this project several times on building the kitchens and bathrooms. Once the contract is completely fulfilled, then we'll come up with funds and do it again and do it again. So on this latest one, where members of the city council wanted to know which are the companies that are going to build these bathrooms and kitchens, so that they can go out and extort them, you know, and say, okay, you know, we're gonna give political opposition to this contract being signed if you don't give me X amount of money. And this is pretty much standard for any kind of project that would have to go through city council.
So there's an advantage to, like we were talking about before, putting the money in the hands of the homeowner and enabling them to make a decision about which contractor they choose.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other thing, for example, the same members of the city council, they want to know who all the beneficiaries are going to be.
Oh,
you know, the families, so that they can also go there and say, hey, I'm getting this for you. You have to vote for me. This kind of stuff.
Housing subsidies are so important, except when they're used to buy votes. Yes. So.
Yes,
So what other, in addition to, you know, your tireless efforts to fight corruption, what other stakeholders or actions are needed? Policy change, financing, technology, what else is needed to make resilient housing available for everyone?
Money and international cooperation.
Okay.
Right now we have a very serious problem with housing deficit, with schooling, with health, due to migrants. Because Colombia is our neighboring country, Venezuela, which is going through a very dire situation. For example, yesterday I ran into somebody that I had met with in New York 2 trips ago from something called the Mayor's Migration Council, because of the Venezuelans. And they said, Mayor, we have good news for you. We received your proposal and we have some good news. We'll be getting in touch with you soon to provide some money for these Venezuelans. And part of it may go into housing, also to health, also to education, to for whatever, to have them settled in. This morning we were in another session as far as how cities can receive all these people and which are the priorities. First there's the immediate assistance, but other than that, I think the biggest part of assistance going to migrants is for housing, because that's a long-term thing.
And I wonder if in Bogota we have a partnership with Plan Terrazas, which is a city-led initiative that is adding second stories to single-story buildings. And to me, I think this is brilliant in so many ways. It's also strengthening the ground floor so the building is stronger for earthquakes, because it's preventing urban sprawl, it's adding more housing units in popular places. There are some places that can be safely expanded. It can generate rental income from the owner. It can generate a rental property for someone who is living there as a migrant. But
and cuts back on needed land space for building if there's not enough land.
Yeah, do you have any initiatives going on like that in Cartagena, or is that something that maybe you could consider later?
Yeah, that's something that could be considered later. I had no idea. Yesterday I heard Mayor Claudia Lopez from Bogota mention this program, and I thought it's brilliant. But our problems go deeper as far as poverty. We have in our Ciénaga de la Virgen, the Virgen Basin, you see houses that the walls are made out of black plastic garbage bags.
Ooh.
You know, so
That's
before,
tough.
you know, first we have to get at least some cement on there, you know,
Right.
get some bricks before
Yeah.
we can start, you know, putting a
That
second floor.
is a different starting point. Yeah.
And those aren't just one-off cases. There's
Right.
many. There are thousands of people who live like that in
There's-
dirt poor conditions.
There's so many great things, great momentum in Cartagena, but so much more to do, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Cartagena is may possibly have the highest or the second highest income per capita in all Colombia, but the disparity between the haves and have-nots is so great. The 10% of the population lives well, but the other 90% are very miserable. Approximately 50% of the population does not eat 3 meals a day.
So are you able to use, we were talking earlier with the mayor of Hawaii County in Hawaii, who is using some of the tax revenue on the more expensive population and properties to use that to direct it more toward affordable housing. So are you able to access that kind of a mechanism?
Well, I don't know how much of it may go into housing or not, but we have started. Last year we implemented the study as far as land value and assessing, doing a survey, a census of all the houses, the buildings, all the construction in the city, which had not been done in approximately 15 years.
Wow.
So we did this, and now we have true information on all the properties that are out there and the new appraised values. So now our taxes, our property taxes, our income from property taxes has skyrocketed. So now we can afford to put some more into helping the poor people and, you know, meet their basic needs, unsatisfied needs.
So that investment in just understanding the data and getting the data around the properties that exist and their values has led to a huge increase. So did you face any opposition when you did that?
Oh yeah, no, nobody wants to pay taxes.
Exactly.
But look, out of all the properties in the city, only half, approximately 50% of all the properties appeared in our database. And of that 50%, only 50% paid. So only 25% of Cartageneros were paying. But now that everybody's in on it, people who didn't pay before didn't like it, and those who were paying, but they were paying just like for an empty lot, and now there's a building on there.
Yeah.
Of course they have to pay more, so they're not happy either. But people get used to it.
So hopefully that's
Yes,
that's
sir.
it. People get used to it. It becomes just a standard part of life, and it continues
the first
to.
year, the first 2 years, you know,
There's a lot of, but
Yeah.
then after that, yeah. Oh,
Yes,
that's
sir.
great. That's such a great example for other cities, other nations who are embarking on that path of, you know, endeavoring to collect more property tax to benefit
Yes,
the whole
ma'am.
community. I love that. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Let's see. So, what are you hoping to achieve here in Denver at the City Summit of the Americas?
Okay, not just the housing, but in general.
Yeah, in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy going to these international conferences because of all the networking you do, and it sooner or later, not all of them, but you know, a few of these pan out. And as I mentioned a while ago, with the Mayor's Migration Council, they're going to put several $100,000 maybe into Cartagena.
Yeah.
And it's been like that with other entities, with
great.
the Bloomberg foundations in New York. With over here, I'm going to be tomorrow speaking at a panel on corruption, and I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot more networking there. And this morning it was on migrants, so we did a lot of networking and finding out what's out there in the world. You see, cities think that the problems we have are just exclusive to our city. But it
No.
turns out it's the same problem everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere. Last year I was at an event in Amsterdam, invited by the Bloomberg Philanthropies for mayors from around the world. And I thought I had a big problem in Cartagena because the city floods every time it rains. I said, oh my God, why is this? But then they asked, okay, mayors, who has problems in your city floods every time it rains? Half the mayors raised their hands.
Yep.
The other half are either from North America or Europe.
Right. Which,
But so it's-
and they're
it's-
probably unaware of their flood hazard, right? They probably do have a flood hazard. Yeah.
Yeah. So we build networks, and we're forming part of lots of national networks on different, you know, for climate, for housing, for corruption, for everything. And so I think that's a big benefit from these events.
I'm so inspired. Thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing all the great work you're doing in Cartagena, and hope we can stay in touch about everyone's journey to resilient housing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah,
Wonderful
thanks
being
again.
here. Thank you. Bye.